Dobro jutro svima. So we begin our second day of this conference, and it's full of material on a range of associated topics. In fact, we have 11 presentations planned, and there will be 3 panel discussions. So you can think of this as basically 3 blocks of material. And 2 of those blocks is going to be overseen, as it were, by Jareb Chapo, who is also going to moderate the panel discussions on the after the first 2 blocks. Let me say something about Jareb. First of all, let me say that he's a very good friend, both personally and, as it were, if one can be such officially, in a sense, to Centar za obnovu kulture, because he and Mario provided the most enormous encouragement, advice, practical help in order to get this conference together. Jareb Chapo earned his undergraduate degree in 2003 and his master's in 2007 from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences here at the University of Zagreb. He received his PhD in 2012 from the Faculty of Croatian Studies at the University of Zagreb, with a dissertation on the repressive state apparatus of monarchist Yugoslavia in the Croatian lands. Since 2007, Jareb has been employed at the Croatian Institute of History here in Zagreb, and he currently holds the position of Senior Scientific Associate. He's written 2 books and edited 3 others. His research interests focus on Croatian social and political history between the 2 world wars. And he also explores American foreign policy in the interwar period, especially regarding American diplomatic attitudes and actions towards the Croatian question, as, for example, Bleiburg. He is a member of the Society of Historians of American Foreign Relations. He is also editor-in-chief of the excellent journal Review of Croatian History, and he's head of the Scientific Research Center for Diplomatic History at the Croatian Institute of History. So, Jareb, if you can introduce the speakers, and I shall sit down.
Thank you so much, Robin, for this extensive introduction. I wish you all a very good morning. At the beginning of today's part of our conference, yesterday evening we had an excellent opportunity to hear some great lectures on the broader European context and experience with communist totalitarianism. And today we will focus more on the Croatian context. Speaking of that, I would like to introduce you with our speakers within the first panel. We will begin with a lecture held by Dr. Mario Jareb, who is a historian working at the Croatian Institute of History. He researches the history of the independent state of Croatia, as well as the interwar Ustaša movement. His scholarly interests also include issues related to Croatian national symbols and the formation of the modern Croatian borders. He is currently leading a project on researching international diplomatic sources for Croatian history between two world wars. He is the author of numerous books on these topics, and in addition to his works on the interwar Ustaša movement and Croatian national symbols, I would also highlight his book on Soviet crimes in Katyn. His research also focuses on negative stereotypes about Croats and Croatia, particularly the origins of such stereotypes about the Catholic Church among Croats and Blessed Aloysius Stepinac during and after World War II. And today he will give us a presentation on Evelyn Waugh and his experience and perspectives on the methods and goals of the Yugoslav communist partisans, especially regarding the church. So please, Mario, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. And today I'll say something about that topic, about Evelyn Waugh and partisans. So who was Evelyn Waugh? That's the first question. So he was, at the end of the Second World War, an officer in the British Armed Forces and the member of the 37th military mission to Yugoslavia that was commanded by Brigadier Fitzroy McLean. Evelyn Waugh actually spent several months in Croatia during 1944 and at the very beginning of 1945, and had the chance to observe, to learn what was going on about him. And actually the result of his stay in Croatia, partisan Croatia, since that mission was, stationed near the main headquarters of the People's Liberation Army of Croatia, or as a part of Yugoslav partisan movement. So he was closely watching what was going on, observing, collecting information, and at the end he wrote an extensive report entitled Church and the State in Liberated Croatia. So in spring 1944, he spent several months in, let's say, central parts of Croatia, in the town of Topusko, that served at that time as a kind of capital of partisan or communist Croatia. There he shared his time and duties with one, let's say, more famous person who was considered to be a kind of a commander for that part of the military mission, Randolph Churchill, son of more famous Winston Churchill. And while Evelyn was there to observe, to watch and collect information, Randolph didn't do that. He enjoyed more huge amounts of rakia, so he didn't produce any such report as Evelyn. But let's say that this is not that important for our topic. Oops. So these members of that 37 military mission in Croatia, and here in the center of that photo down there is Randolph Churchill. I couldn't locate any photo showing actually Evelyn at that time. In fall 1944, after he spent several months in Britain and in southern Italy, he returned to Croatia, this time to Dubrovnik, that was conquered by the units of the People's Liberation Army of Yugoslavia. And immediately after that occupation or conquest, new Yugoslav communist authorities committed actually horrible crimes in Dubrovnik. And actually it was Evelyn who wrote something about these crimes, especially crimes against the members of the church, the members of the clergy. But more detailed account of these crimes will be given by Robin later on, so I'll focus primarily on what Evelyn wrote about his stay in Croatia and about actually church. Why he was so interested in the fate of the church? He was, among other things, he was well-known writer, novelist, journalist, but also as he is usually described, an ardent Catholic. So that's why actually he focused on the church, among other things. So he submitted his report at the very beginning of March 1945, and actually that move actually stirred some unrest in Foreign Office and in some other services, British services, and actually it was not welcomed by all British officials, especially not by British ambassador to Yugoslavia, Ralph Stevenson, who actually, in response to a message from Anthony Eden, wrote some, let's say, counter report, you know, claiming that actually what Evelyn wrote was in a way biased and not very, actually not relevant in all of its parts. And actually, in Foreign Office, people were aware of the fact that it was not Evelyn's duty to write about these things. So in one report from the very end of March 1945, it was stated that Captain Waugh was a member of number 37 military mission in Yugoslavia under the command of Brigadier McLean, and his official duties were not in any way connected with the study of church matters. But it was solely due to his official mission in Yugoslavia that he was enabled to collect the information on which his report is based. The report was written in London after Captain Waugh had ceased to be a member of number 37 military mission and was communicated to Brigadier McLean after he too had served his connection with the mission. What is interesting, that Brigadier McLean, which is today observed as a guy who was, let's say, fierce or great supporter of Tito, and his policy actually agreed with the content of Waugh's report. So when he was asked about that report, again, from the people from the Foreign Office, he actually said that Brigadier McLean considers that Captain Waugh's report gives a reasonably fair picture. It would have been possible to make the behavior of the partisans more readily justifiable by emphasizing more than Captain Waugh has done the activities of the Catholic clergy in taking arms against Tito's forces and siding with the Ustaše. But it would equally have been possible to make the picture appear yet blacker by adducing further stories of partisan maltreatment of priests and oppression of the Catholic Church. Stevenson, in his, let's say, counter report, actually tried to portray Waugh's report as in a way biased, but he also had to admit that actually facts recorded in Captain Waugh's report are actual, and he said, I agree with him that there have been occasions on which the partisans have behaved with unnecessary brutality towards the Catholic Church and have put unjustifiable obstacles in the way of the performance of their duty by Catholic priests. But he added that he cannot accept the general conclusions which he draws in his report. So he didn't dispute facts, but conclusions. Stevenson also added that the new regime is determined to restrict the activities of the Catholic Church in Yugoslavia to a minimum. At the same time, they will try to eliminate all those elements of the Church which have actively collaborated with the enemy. The officials of the new regime will, within the limits of their mentality, carry out their instructions from above to allow freedom of religious worship. The regime should therefore be judged by the extent to which they distinguish between collaborators and guiltless members of the Catholic Church and how far they interpret fairly the phrase freedom of worship. To expect a concord that's mutually satisfactory to two such irreconcilable bodies as the National Liberation Movement and the Catholic Church is beyond the bounds of reason. Actually, Stevenson, in his counter report, tried to, portray some of Waugh's conclusions by confronting them with some data showing allegedly that Catholic clergy actually actively participated in supporting Ustasha regime. But if some of these facts or information presented as facts in his Carter report are, how to say, analyzed, then it's possible to see that in a way they're also a result of some anti-church, anti-Catholic propaganda, probably of communist origin. For example, Stevenson claimed that some non-partisan sources who are also devout Catholics have said that in Dubrovnik, Kotor and Risan, the Catholic clergy took an active part against the national liberation movement, denouncing its sympathizers to the Ustaše. In this, the Dominicans and Franciscans were the first offenders. In Dubrovnik itself, therefore, the execution of a number of priests by the partisans was generally expected and was not considered as an atrocity. So if you take a look at those places, Kotor and Risan, these places have never been the part of the independent state of Croatia, and simply clergy there could not report any people to Ustašes because Ustašes were not present there. So, probably, if I would go on with the analysis of Stevenson's claims, probably some great things like that would also be possible to find. But let's return to Waugh's report, and if you take a look at data he provided, of course, he couldn't find everything what we know today, but actually if you check, names, events, you would see that actually all of these things were later confirmed as true. So he really invested a lot of time and energy to find as many relevant information or data as possible. So, as I said, he focused on the church, but also by analyzing the situation in Croatia or in Yugoslavia, he also draws some more general conclusions. Probably at the very beginning of his report, he said something about the character of the new regime and said, the Yugoslav Army of National Liberation, popularly called Partisans, is an organized revolutionary army whose main characteristics are extreme youth, ignorance, hardness, pride in the immediate past, confidence in the immediate future, intolerance of dissent, xenophobia, comradeship, sobriety, chastity. The regime which they impose in the rear of the retreating Germans has to the superficial observer most of the signs of Nazism. It is totalitarian in the structure. Great powers are exercised by the secret police, OZNA. There is a cult of the leader. For example, in the new spelling book imposed on all primary schools, the first letters learned are T, I, and O, and the first word spelled is Tito. There is the characteristic blood myth, metaphorical and literal. For example, they speak of their blood brothers suffering under foreign rule in Istria. In Šibenik on the 5th January, the priest who attempted to carry out traditional ceremony of blessing the houses was driven from the office of the National Liberation Committee with the statement, "This house is already blessed with blood." What Waugh also discovered and found was that actually the main, sword of the party in executing his orders and actually imposing the wave of terror in territories already under the control of the new regime was secret police, or OZNA, and he actually devoted a lot of space in his report to the activities of OZNA and the so-called people's courts, because OZNA would usually arrest and torture people, and then in many cases they would be brought to those so-called people's courts that were actually not courts at all. So he described that procedure of how that wave of terror actually worked. So he said the most common procedure, however, and the one which appears to be standardized in the districts where the partisans have established firm control, is for the trial to be conducted in secret by the OZNA. This body, closely analogous to the Gestapo and other modern police services, is secret in its membership and organization, and no full information is available about it. It appears to work under its own command entirely independently of the civil or military administration. And OZNA detachment invariably follows the partisan forces into liberated territory, possessed of its own briefs and acting on its own authority. For example, in November in the island of Korčula, the chief judicial officer was under the impression that 4 priests held nominally under his jurisdiction and had been removed to the mainland for trial when, in fact, they had been shot some days before by the OZNA in his own prison. Trials by the OZNA take place in secret. The names of judges, accusers, and witnesses are not disclosed. A prisoner is never acquitted in a judicial sense. He is sometimes set free, temporarily rearrested for further questioning, turned loose again, and finally shot after 3rd or 4th period of liberty. When executions have taken place, a notice is posted giving the names of the victims and some general charge, such as Ustaša, enemy, collaborator, or denouncer. At the time of writing, the tendency is for OZNA control to become tighter rather than less tight, and for OZNA trials to take place of people courts, except in cases where there is strong evidence to be exploited. So he mentioned the case in Sanski most of one priest. An examination of the executions for which the information is available suggests that the victims are selected less for any guilt they may have incurred by association with the enemy than for the strength of their personal prestige among their people. In a few cases, the two coincided, and the most forceful character was found to have been the most active in supporting the Ustaše. The partisans, however, do not distinguish between political opponents of their own regime and friends of the national enemy. The commissars seek constantly to direct the war spirit into ideological channels. They seldom speak of German or Italian invaders, but of fascists. Thus, any priest who was prominent as an opponent of communism is condemned as a traitor, though he may have held scrupulously aloof from contact with the enemy. Even priests who lacked all interest in politics incur condemnation simply by their prestige. Father Petar Perica, a Jesuit of Dubrovnik, shot by the OZNA in November 1944, devoted himself entirely to the spiritual life and was much sought after as a confessor. Robin will tell you more about Petar Perica and other people actually executed in Dubrovnik. So as the result of that wave of terror, actually Waugh already at the very beginning of 1945 could speak about huge losses of the church, and actually he had more detailed information about the suffering and losses of those dioceses along the Croatian coast, so in Dalmatia, and also he had some information on what was going on in Herzegovina. So he said that the official reply given by the partisans to any inquiry about their attitude to the church is that they advocate freedom of worship but intend to prevent the interference of religion with politics. Widely different interpretations can obviously be given to this answer. The Croatian clergy believe that a premeditated plan is being put into operation for the gradual extermination of the church. They base this belief on a priori grounds that communism and Christianity are incompatible, and also on the evidence of partisan behavior in the territory they control. And here is what he learned by then. So he wrote in his report that details are available in only 3 dioceses, Šibenik, Split, with which Makarska is now combined, and Dubrovnik, and the Franciscan province of the Most Holy Redeemer, which extends from Split to Zadar, or Zara. He used this Italian version of that city's name. At Šibenik, 8 priests have been killed, one who was drowned while under arrest, possibly accidentally. One priest is serving a 15-year sentence for writing an article mocking Marshal Tito. At Split, 10 priests have been killed and 2 are in prison. At Dubrovnik, 14 priests have been killed and 1 is in prison. Of the Franciscan province, 20 have been killed and 6 are in prison. A reliable source, which has furnished no details, estimates the number of priests executed at Mostar, Franciscan and secular, at 45. This high figure is, if accurate, makes be explained by the fact that Mostar is predominantly an Orthodox and Muslim area. There can be no reasonable doubt that when information becomes available from other dioceses, there will be many further deaths to record. These executions have become the regular concomitant of liberation. At the time of writing, they are still continuing. There is no uniformity in the matter of death. Some priests have simply been carried off by the partisans and never heard of again. And he continued actually on the same page to, write about names, about these verdicts about the terror in general. So his report is actually a rich source of information about the suffering of the church and actually about the general situation in that part of Croatia that was at the time under communist or partisan control. It's important to say that at that time, actually, his report remained limited only to British services, although his original intention was to share it with others, especially with Americans. Actually, he tried to warn US services about about communist intentions, and after he left Croatia in actually already in February 1945, he first approached US representative to the Holy See, Charles Myron Taylor, and later on he, while in London, already in London, he approached the US embassy near the Yugoslav royal government that was preparing to depart, actually to move to Belgrade. So he tried to provide them with information about the suffering of the church and what can they expect once they go there and find the situation there. So now Evelyn Waugh's report is available to everyone, so if you are interested in its content, you can easily find it at British National Archives, and thank you for your patience.